What's going on, fellow A-plusers? It's your host, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new review for you guys today, as we're going to be getting into The Mandalorian Season 3, because Mando and Baby Yoda are back, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Din Djarin himself, Grogu, making their appearance once again. I don't even remember the last time that we saw The Mandalorian. I want to say maybe in the middle of the book of Boba Fett, but it's been a while since we actually had a Mandalorian season to certainly fully enjoy. So a long time coming, but it is in fact back, ladies and gentlemen. So Star Wars fans, rejoice. We got ourselves some fantastic content to certainly last us over the next couple of weeks. And so I'm really eager to go ahead and dive into season 3 with you guys. We will be doing live reviews for you guys, just so you know, going forward when it comes to The Mandalorian every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Time, dropping this on my 1 hour lunch break for you guys. So I'm spending my lunch break with you guys to go ahead and talk some Star Wars. So I'm really glad to certainly be here with you guys today. We got Marcelino Vasquez certainly coming through for us also over from the YouTube channel. So thank you very much for your guys' support. Listen, we just officially became monetized. So if you do want to go ahead and support this channel in any way, there might be a super chats button over there. Maybe go ahead and get you some super stickers if you certainly like to go ahead and help support this particular channel, allow us to upgrade our production, microphones, cameras, whatever the case may be. Get the opportunity to go to conventions to provide more coverage for you guys. So if you want to go ahead and support the channel, you certainly can. But guys, let's go ahead and get into our Star Wars talk today, because season 3, episode 1, The Apostate, I believe was the name of this particular title, wind up dropping as of yesterday on Disney Plus. If you haven't had the opportunity to check it out, please do, because this will be a spoiler review for you guys as we're going to be getting into it. Couple things right off the top, my pros and cons of this. I was a really big fan of this episode. This is how you start off a season of television. Not to get off of the Star Wars train already, but I decided to go ahead and check out The Flash season 9 for its final season, going into the premiere episode, really expecting them to set the tone. And unfortunately, it didn't do too much for me. But when I come to this show for Star Wars, The Mandalorian, they just know how to hit all the buttons right and get you excited for an entirety of a season that's certainly headed your way. I think Jon Favreau, as far as the writer in here, did an amazing job of really helping set the tone. And we wind up getting director Rick Famuyiwa back once again. This felt like probably one of his better directed episodes. I know he's done episodes for seasons 1 and 2. I may have to revisit season 2 to kind of see what his work was certainly like, but I feel like he's getting more and more comfortable in his Star Wars bag and being in this particular world. And I just thought, directing wise and storyline wise, I thought Rick and John did a fantastic job for this episode and really bringing us back. I mean, we got the great father and son stuff in here with Grogu along with Din. I love the idea that we established some returning characters, but this time around in all new sort of new environments, whether that be the armorer on a brand new planet, Grief Karga now is the High Magistrate on a brand new Nevarro. For a second there, I was like, what planet are we certainly on, right? And then getting the opportunity to visit with Bo-Katan at the end of this episode in Kalvala, I believe is the name of the planet that she was certainly on. So new environments, familiar faces. If anything, if there was sort of like a con that I had to this episode, I do wish that they might have explained the time jump a little bit more in here, because especially when you look at Nevarro, a lot has definitely happened. And so I do wonder if it was very similar to real time and how we had to wait for The Mandalorian season 3, whether I think it was a year and a half, 2 years or something like that. I wonder if that same amount of time has certainly lapsed since we last saw these characters. So I do wish that they explained the time difference just a little bit more. But other than that, I thought they did an incredible job here in this episode. We do have a new composer for the show. Even though I know Ludwig, I believe is his name, does the theme for The Mandalorian. I do believe we have another gentleman by the name of Joseph Sultry. Joseph Shirley is his name. He's actually the one that did the score for this episode. I thought he did an amazing job. It really brought me back to just the Star Wars feels, and it didn't feel like they missed a beat whatsoever. It felt like it was staying true very much to the Mandalorian character and themes of this show. I thought the action was certainly there, whether that be the creature fight for the Mandos in the beginning, the space battle that we wind up getting towards the end. Also, just doing a really great job of showcasing a little bit of everything and giving us that sort of adventure feel as we wind up having Din Djarin really establishing sort of a new mission for himself in this week's episode, and really giving us a great launching point as to where we're certainly going to go from here. So overall, I thought the episode itself was a really great entry point for season 3. Definitely brought back that adventure feel that I certainly love when it comes to Star Wars. Established characters once again, but yet still that very new feeling. And so I'm really looking forward to it. So not too many cons. I think if there was maybe another con, is probably the idea that the Book of Boba Fett very much is sort of required reading or required viewing in order to at least understand why or how Grogu and Din Djarin are certainly back together. Like, while I appreciated the small recap that we wind up getting, they really just focused on the armorer stuff and the idea of Din Djarin sort of losing his Mandalorian, I guess, privileges, if you will, because he's taken off his mask in the past. So while I highlighted that aspect of Din Djarin's story going forward in the recap, the idea of Ahsoka, Luke Skywalker certainly assisting Grogu, certainly in his growth. They didn't even really highlight that in the recap. So to even know how these two reconnected again, you kind of have to go back to watch the Book of Boba Fett. So I do feel somewhat sorry for some of you guys, but I guarantee the second half of Book of Boba Fett is pretty fantastic. So certainly enjoy yourselves there. So not too many cons, definitely a lot more pros in here than that. And it really set the tone for what this season is going to be like. So with that out of the way, in regards to just my overall thoughts, Marcelino says, I found this episode all right. It didn't blow me away as the other season premieres did. I like the Mandalorian's new design. They stood out more and each were individualized. I also talked about this episode on another stream yesterday. He said, Katee Sachoff being promoted to main cast member has me intrigued. She will most likely play a big part this season. And we'll start off with some Bo-Katan talk here if you guys certainly want me to. Let me go ahead and make sure I go to my notes here in regards to what's going on with Bo-Katan, because you're right. The idea of Katee Sachoff being moved off to main character status, it does have me intrigued, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she brings to this season. I'm hoping that she's around for all these episodes, to be honest with you. She's just a very powerful and great actress, if you ask me. And so the idea and the attitude that she winds up bringing to Bo-Katan in here, I find very fascinating. I mean, first off, we get to see her best impression of the Queen of Dragons here on her throne. I mean, you want to talk about just Game of Thrones-esque here. Absolutely love the design of the castle. The throne looks absolutely incredible. And Katee Sachoff just channeling her inner Bo-Katan, and just with the lounge and everything, I just absolutely found pretty intriguing, to say the least. But great introduction to her as a character here in this episode. But I also, at the same time, really enjoyed learning what's taken place for her since the last time that we saw her, right? The idea that pretty much everybody has sort of abandoned her. The fact that last time that we saw her, she was unable to get the dark saber for herself. And it seems because of that, people have certainly lost faith in her. They literally stole or like took all the stolen fleet that they wind up bringing together in season 2, that we thought, man, look at this armada that they have to go ahead and storm Mandalore if they certainly want to. But all that is gone now. They apparently have gone off to become mercenaries, and Bo-Katan certainly finds herself all alone. So I am going to be interested to see what her motivations are here this season, right? She doesn't seem to have any motivation to even go to Mandalore. She seems like she's in a little bit of a funk, and that there is definitely some sort of attitude towards Din Djarin himself for even wanting to go back to Mandalore, right? Definitely a lot of animosity is definitely built up between these two characters, and she's probably still feeling some type of way that she still does not have the dark saber for herself. So there definitely seems to be elements of trying to veer Din Djarin away from even going to Mandalore in the first place. But I also even like the idea of her pushing back against Mando when he asks, so you just gave up on your notion to go ahead and reclaim Mandalore for yourself? And the idea of her giving up on anything, it felt very much like it struck a chord with her when he said that, because she immediately pushed back on the idea of like everything that you've given up, right? Like you and your people in your cultish sect of the Mandalores gave up on Mandalore years ago, right? The idea that they sort of splintered up that society with some of their beliefs and things like that. She kind of puts it in the sense that your people are the one that put us in the weak position to begin with to lose Mandalore, and when we did lose Mandalore, you guys certainly weren't out there trying to fight for it and gave up on it themselves. So it feels very much like don't tell me I gave up on something when your people gave up on something too, and you probably haven't even necessarily earned the right to certainly get it back. And so I do definitely love the perspective that Bo-Katan is coming from, because she definitely feels like she's setting herself up to be sort of like at least one of the antagonists for the remainder of this season. And I am kind of curious to see if we will get that battle between Din Djarin and Bo-Katan, possibly for the Darksaber at some point in time. Is she leading him into a trap? Who certainly knows? I mean, she literally gives him like direct locations of where to find the living waters of Mandalore under the Citadel and everything like that. And it makes me wonder, is there like a trap she's ready to spring? Because when he starts walking off out of the castle, she just says goodbye, Din Djarin, almost to say that she expects to not even see this guy again, that he's going to get himself killed in this particular mission. Whether or not that's something that she's setting up for herself, or she really just believes the idea that going to Mandalore is just a dangerous trek, that there's really no point in it. We'll definitely have to see, but I am fascinated to see where Din Djarin's journey certainly takes him here, as again they set up in this episode his new mission. Now that he completed his mission of giving Grogu over to where he was certainly going to go, his mission now is to go ahead and reestablish himself as a Mandalorian, just in general. So I'm really fascinated to see it. But you're absolutely right, Marcelino. The fact of Katee Sachoff being a main character in here does have me intrigued, and I think they did a great job of at least establishing just her mindset and her animosity that she certainly has, because things definitely very much seem like they have kind of fallen apart for her in here. But I love seeing her on the throne, and Katee Sachoff is just an amazing Bo-Katan. But let me know what you guys think in regards to the Bo-Katan character. And again, she's on the planet Kalvala, if I'm not mistaken, which he mentioned was a planet within the Mandalorian system. So not too far from the scene of the crime, if you will. But I thought that was a great moment here for Bo-Katan. A couple other things I wanted to talk about. Let's talk a little bit about the armorer, because the armorer for me has just become such a fantastic staple in this particular series. Emily Swallow, I think, does an incredible job as the armorer. There is a part of me that really wants to see her without her mask on. It was pretty cool to even see her in a little bit of action in here, trying to save the young man that she's looks like they have a Mandalore ceremony certainly going on to go ahead and give him his helmet for the first time when he's no longer allowed to go ahead and take it off. For me, this was really cool just to kind of learn and see a little bit more about the Mandalorian culture in general, and how something like this even begins for people that are young and at a certain particular age when they sort of graduate, if you will, to becoming a Mandalorian. So for me, I thought this was a really great intro in here to kind of give us a little bit more insight into the world and history of Mandalore. But again, just honestly seeing the armor and seeing her as a really big connective tissue for all three seasons so far has been pretty remarkable. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. And I really enjoyed the entrance that we had from Mando in here, right? Getting the opportunity to see, all these Mandalorians trying to take on this sea creature that just kind of comes out in the middle of this ceremony. Incredible action piece. And I really feel like even the special effects have even jumped up a little bit in regards to its improvement. I do wonder if the idea of them taking their time to let this series be released has really allowed the special effects team to kind of really up their ante here, because I was kind of impressed impressed with not only just the creature in this episode, but also the space battle that we wind up getting, along with the introduction to one of the pirates. I believe his name in here is, give me a second, what was his name? Gorian Shard. Really cool effects and maybe even some practical makeup on there. So Mandalorian season 3 certainly is not holding back, to certainly say the least. So yeah, was really impressed with just the beginning of this particular episode. And I think he even, once Mando actually lands after saving everybody, I really did love their interaction together as he winds up revealing sort of like this crystal shard that he claims the Jawas received from a traveler who had been to Mandalore at some point in time. The armorer certainly confirms it, and kind of gives him the nod and the go ahead, like, hey, if you want to redeem yourself and go to Mandalore, by all means, this is the way, do what you certainly have to do. And I think he takes that as acceptance and certainly goes about his business. But again, this was a really great way to go ahead and sort of lay the groundwork for what his new mission is certainly going to be. And really the idea of there really being some pushback against him, because of the fact that they really don't consider him a Mandalorian anymore because of him taking off his mask at one point in time. So Din Djarin definitely has certainly a lot to prove. And I think the idea of the armorer being maybe a little bit more quiet, I don't want to say standoffish, but it seemed a little bit hesitant and quiet at times. It seems as though there is some type of her feeling some type of way about the idea that Mando is back, but it's like, you're not even a Mandalorian, bro. Why are you even here in the first place? You know what I mean? But clearly, I think the crystal shard certainly opened up her eyes a little bit and made it a little bit more accepting to her. So this is the way, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what else Emily Swallow certainly does as the armorer in here. If there is any question that I have, though, first off, really cool just helmet that she wind up designing for this kid. But I am curious as to whose kid this certainly is. And I only bring this up because I feel like anytime that they gave us a shot of the kid, they also gave us a shot of the Mandalorian, like the big, bulky Mandalorian dude with the like Arnold Schwarzenegger like gun on his, on his hip with the bullets and the lasers coming out his backpack and stuff. I feel like we've seen this guy before. I don't know if we saw him in season 2. I'm trying to remember if this is the same guy that maybe even faced off against Mando back in Book of Boba Fett, but I feel like he looks super familiar. Like we've seen this guy before. And so I do wonder if he is maybe the father to this kid here that we see in the far right hand corner that's about to go ahead and get his helmet for the very first time and become a Mandalorian. So I do wonder if there's some connection there between father and son, but maybe I'm just reading into it just a little bit too much. Outside of that, the other main character we got to talk about is none other than good old Grief Karga, or should I say High Magistrate Karga at this point. As let me tell you, man, Nevarro has grown incredibly. The fact that they refer to it as the gem of the outer rim just made me laugh, considering just how we've seen this particular planet or city in general kind of run over the past 2 seasons. To see what Grief Karga has been able to do with Nevarro has been nothing short of miraculous. I mean, he even talks about the idea that this is now sort of like the hub for trading also out in the outer rim, or at least that's where his expectations and sort of like his dreams for where Nevarro can certainly go. So for me, when I see these two, it is like a homecoming, a gathering of buddies that have been through it with each other since the very beginning. And there is something really cool, I think, of Karga trying to get Mando to kind of settle down a little bit, right? Like, what else do you have to do, man? Like, we have it all right here for you. You and little man can certainly like settle down. I got a patch of land that's ready for you guys. If you want to be our new marshal, that's really what I want you for. Talk about a great team up. I hope, look, I don't know where Mandalorian's journey ends, but if Grief Karga continues to do what he's doing as High Magistrate, man, I would love to see the final season of Mando where it's just Grogu and Din Djarin just finally relaxing in this patch of land that Grief has certainly made for him. But really cool. Look, great costume design. Homeboy is definitely moving up in the world for sure, making a name for himself. And look, just because of the fact that he's gotten comfortable, he's got money, he's doing big things for Navarro, it doesn't stop him from still putting somebody down if he absolutely has to. And I really enjoyed sort of that interaction that we saw between him and the group of pirates, sort of like a reminder that, hey, you used to be a jerk and a big asshole, right? Like you used to not have a problem killing down some people or having people go and do killings for you. And now the idea of kind of seeing Karga as sort of like that changed man is kind of what I got from this sequence, to just show how much this guy has certainly changed in his time. He don't mind putting you down as long as you're not asking for a drink inside of a school, right? So, idea of protecting kids, protecting what's his, trying to keep law and order and things like that. It was a really cool sequence, I thought, for Grief Karga in here to kind of show he's still got it. He's still got it, and he's still certainly doing big things in here. So, I look, Carl Weathers is always a joy to certainly see on screen. So, I certainly hope that we get the opportunity to definitely see more of him. He did also go ahead, and a quick honorable mention in here. He does at least reference for us Cara Dune, which I thought was pretty fascinating, and glad that they finally at least name dropped her. This is sort of a way to let us know, like, hey, she's still in the universe, but we're sort of like writing her off of our show by talking about the idea that she's no longer the marshal there, that she's been recruited by special forces. So Cara Dune's out there doing some sort of secret mission. So look, if they ever wanted to bring the Cara Dune character back, they certainly could. So I'm glad that they didn't kill her off, but more or less just sort of wrote her off. And so now we've got the situation of Grief Karga wanting Din to be the new marshal. But I also find this interesting that it does give us an idea of the mindset of Karga, that he really doesn't want any connections to the New Republic if he can sort of help it, right? They've really established themselves as very much as an independent trading post out there on the outer rim. I'm sure New Republic officers and X-Wing fighters come in certainly from time to time, but it's probably that idea of like, look, we don't want to owe anybody anything. This is something that we want to establish on ourselves. We're not trying to get political or being pulled into sort of whatever the drama that the New Republic might be going and certainly dealing with. So I really do appreciate Grief Karga trying to certainly be his own independent state out here in Navarro. But for me, it was just really amazing to kind of see just the growth of what Navarro certainly ended up turning out to be. So those are just some of the main characters that we wind up hinting at that I definitely wanted to talk a little bit more about. As far as honorable mentions, IG-11 makes a great appearance in here. It looks like they've turned him into a monument in regards to, if you go back to, I would assume, the season finale for season 1, what he certainly did to go ahead and like exterminate the remaining Empire forces and stormtroopers out of there, to really, at least I would assume, allow Navarro to finally establish itself. So the fact that they have him as a monument, just like, man, I can't believe they look at this dude as sort of their hero, if you will. But he definitely was the beginnings of that particular town and the growth that it certainly has had. And I am fascinated too that it's the idea that Din Djarin needs his help. It goes to show you just how serious this trip to Mandalore certainly is. And you want to talk about having a reliable person on your back when you never know what you're going to encounter or who's going to certainly betray you. Look, I would love to have an IG-11 killer bounty hunter on my back any time of the day, to have somebody watch my back like that. So it was interesting that they tried to reboot him. I'm kind of surprised that they weren't under the assumption that rebooting him or bringing him back would automatically send him back to his termination ways of baby Grogu. So they were definitely surprised by it. But me as a viewer, I'm like, are you sure you want to revive this guy? And it certainly came true. So interesting little attack by IG-11. But I also was a really big fan of the idea that not only does he still, after that encounter, want to fix IG-11, but the people that he's going to be going to for the assistance and bringing him back is very much a very familiar face in the Anzellans, who, for some of you who don't recall, they actually made their debut in Rise of Skywalker by the character Babu Frik. So this is, in fact, the Anzellans. I'm not sure if this is Babu Frik or if Babu Frik himself is even in this particular episode or not. They all just look the same to me, if you ask me, but Great sequence, definitely had me laughing. I thought it was just absolutely adorable. Also, the idea of Baby Yoda, or I should say Grogu, in here getting in his big squeeze, I thought was just pretty hilarious. Also, no squeezies, no squeezies. I absolutely love the way that fucking the Anzellans talk. I really do. It definitely wins me over, to say the least. So look, Mandalorian is just continuing to create just great characters in here, from Grogu, that's just absolutely adorable, and jumping onto the bandwagon with this Babu Frik sort of character in the alien species definitely is going to go a long way when it comes to toy sales for the Mandalorian. But I thought it was actually pretty cool. And going back to also just me giving props to the special effects team, this is in fact the new pirate that they introduced us to in Gorian Shard. When I look at him, I get vibes of not only Swamp Thing, but it also kind of takes me back to, was it Pirates of the Caribbean 2? I want to call the guy Davy Jones, but I don't believe that's who it was. The captain of the ship that was like a squid, and he had like all this algae and stuff on him. I can't remember the name of the character in Pirates of the Caribbean, but when I see Gorian Shard in here, I immediately think of him and a combination of Swamp Thing having a baby. And I'm actually pretty impressed with the design of the character in here. But yeah, we see him briefly before Mando hits that Nos on his Naboo fighter and just splits out of town and leaves everybody in his dust, sort of thing. So some great little honorable mentions there in regards to the Anzellans, IG-11, along with Gorian Shard. But overall, man, I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a really fun one, really great season premiere in the sense of hitting the ground running, giving us some Mandalorian lore, giving us some great action, giving us that space battle that definitely is that sort of Star Wars staple, great musical composition, and I think even really great director's work. And again, some great character arcs in here and establishing where everybody's been since the last time that we've seen them, and most importantly, establishing a brand new mission for Din Djarin himself. Let's see here what some of you guys are saying. But listen, at the end of the day, these are just my A+ opinions. I always want to know yours, so let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, guys. So thank you very much for certainly joining us today. Wherever you're watching us from, again, feel free to go ahead and support the channel if you certainly like. If you're on Facebook, if you're watching us live, hit those stars buttons. It definitely does help in regards to promoting and helping our channel grow. Feel free to send in some super chats anytime you're over on YouTube as well. Let's see here. Marcelino says, one con I do have is trying to bring IG-11 back. Not only are they trying to bring him back to life, but the way they're doing it brings up so many questions and plot holes. Maybe they'll investigate that a little bit more. You know, I don't know when's the next time that we're going to see IG-11, but I definitely expect him to be back at some point in time for sure. Let's see here. Marcelino also says, isn't Calvala the same location where Sabine Wren's family house live, or is that a different location? Calvala. This was Calvala. Yeah, they just spelt it differently, I think, in the subtitles, but you might be right. I'm not the best when it comes to Sabine history. It's been a minute since I checked out Star Wars Rebels, honestly. I probably haven't revisited it in like 4 or 5 years. But I don't know. I'll look it up, Marcelino, though. I think that's a good question, though. Not sure if I should bring this up, but they mentioned Cara Dune left and is working with the New Republic. I think they handle her absence well. I think so too. It was just a casual thing, like, yeah, man, something came up, special forces came and picked her up, and she's no longer here. So I would definitely agree with you. Marcelino says Grogu still hasn't learned a lesson from the frogs who when handling the Babu freaks, he still sees them as toys. Well, listen, frogs he looks as very much as food, right? Like he's definitely downed a couple of frogs and a couple of frog eggs in his life. So the fact that he didn't try and eat any of the Anzellans, I think he's learning something. I think he's learning something, right? We didn't see poor little Babu Freak's hands coming out of his mouth. So again, I don't even know if that was Babu Freak or not, but they are referred to as the Anzellans, and Babu Freak was one of the characters, at least from Rise of Skywalker. So I hope that was Babu. I think there'll be a really great sort of connection between the two. But I really appreciated them even just using that particular species in this episode. Marcelino does say it will be bittersweet if she turns on Jin. Talking about Bo-Katan, people forget that she started off as a terrorist and only joined the good guys because they helped her with her goal. Oh yeah, it's like she's not a straightforward sort of like protagonist. Like no, there is a lot of I guess maybe anti-hero sort of thing. You know what I mean? She definitely has her reasonings, and I guess there's also like a Saw Gerrera aspect about her in the sense that maybe you can trust her in certain situations, but she can really just go off and do her own thing whenever she certainly wants to for her own intentions and purposes. So definitely somebody you certainly keep your eye on. And I do think that somebody like Din Djarin certainly understands that, or at least I certainly hope that he does. But look, guys, if I had to go ahead and grade The Mandalorian, probably an A minus for me, honestly. Really great stuff. Again, the only cons that I truly had in here was the lack of explaining how much of a time jump and just the lack of a proper recap in regards to Din and Grogu, thus making Boba Fett very much required viewing. But overall, really enjoyable start, and I think they're going to certainly carry this momentum going forward. But other than that, guys, these are just my A+ opinions. I want to know yours. Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or in the comment section box below, and we certainly will be here next week for you guys. See you guys next Thursday at 1 p.m. For more Mandalorian reviews. And if you want to check us out live every Sunday for our A+ Hero Report, certainly please go ahead and do so. Feel free to follow us on special social media down below at A+ Opinions. Very active over our main page, which is our Facebook page, and also catch us over on Twitter and Instagram. But until next time, guys, do me a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. May the force be with you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.